So, welcome everybody. This is the Thursday morning call, which is normally about breathing and mindfulness. And today we want to talk about running after 70, an interesting challenge for some people. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but I certainly have been told to take more exercise, but you don't know how to do it, you don't know how to get into it, and you don't know if it really fits in with what you want to do. And recently I've been looking at mindfulness and running, and I think the great thing about mindfulness is there's no right and there's no wrong way. So Chris and I are just going to give you our experiences. And what the way to do it is to just notice where you are, let go of any presuppositions about where you would like to be, and just be in the present when you're attempting to run. And noticing your breathing, because I'm always talking about breathing, and noticing your physical movement.
Hi, I started running just before I was 60, and having spent years of not really running enough. And I have to tell you that I did feel much better at 60 than I did at 50 because of that running. So that's a pretty good thing for me. Just on, where did this all begin? Where did the story start?
I used to walk a lot with my husband and the dogs, and I had peritonitis, which is a burst appendix, 14 years ago, and I really regret that I got to the stage where I could hardly walk, and I wasn't walking with Ivan and the dogs, and I had lots of foot pain, leg pain, hip pain, you name it, and I'd sort of given up.
Wow. So now you've actually started the Redbourne Mile, the walks in Redbourne, the health walks. How did that happen?
Well, Ivan started up active in Redbourne, and somebody recommended to him that we should be doing health walks. We'd have no idea what it was. The common in Redbourne is very handily about a mile long if you walk all the way around it. And so I said I volunteered to start up the health walks around the common, and the health walks are all organised by Hertfordshire Health Walks, and so they do training for people, and so I trained as a walk leader, and a lot of other people, including Chris on the call, trained as walk leaders. And so because we got a large number of walk leaders, we only did one a month. And what happens is you get a walk leader at the beginning of the pack of group and a walk follower at the back. And so that's how we started. And whenever I was walking around the common, I remember posting on Facebook one day because I was getting into how do I breathe, and the fact that if you nose breathe in and out through your nose, it helps with oxygenation of your legs. And so I was posting that. That was back in the days of wearing a woolly hat and several scarves back in January time. I then saw an NHS podiatrist who said, let's start with your feet, and put inner soles into my shoes. And I must admit, if you've ever had inner soles, it's the most uncomfortable thing to start with. But luckily, one of the health walk leaders, Jackie, said to me, it's awful for the first 3 or 4 weeks, and then it's absolutely great. You won't want to be without them. So I took her word for it, managed to power through the first 3 weeks, and then I could walk okay. So progress was being made.
So did you stop when lockdown turned up?
No, I didn't. I carried on, and I must admit I have to almost have to thank Boris for this. Not many things I thank him for, but he did say everybody should be out and doing walks, and so I got into doing walks every day. I was walking around the common, and my feet seemed to be generally getting better. And then I managed to extend it to about 3.5K by going up via the top of the village. And so I was making progress. And that was all walking, though.
Well, I must admit, I've been on those walks. They're great fun and they're really sociable as well, I must say. But I'm actually very interested in your running. How did that start?
Well, I went on to one of the Active in Redbourne calls where Rachel was interviewing John Beattie, who is a really well-known runner, apparently, and he trains people. And I'm sitting there listening one evening to him talking, and he was on Facebook Live, so I could put a question in. So I just, without any thought at all, I just put the question in. I'm over 70. I haven't run for decades. Where do I start? And he said, what you want to do, and I've heard this since, there's a program called Couch to 5K, I think.
It's I've been on that. It's really, really good.
And he said, what you got to do is you've got to walk a bit, run a bit, walk a bit, run a bit, and slowly build it up. So I started with 100-yard running, and I gradually managed to work up to 4K. And wow. I did it just by what John had said. And I was sort of counting how much I was running and how much I was walking. And I finally ended up by saying, okay, I'm going to run the whole thing. So I now run about 4.2K. The kids told me not to overdo it because I was doing it every day. And they said, I think you're overdoing this a bit. And so I dropped off to every other day, having a bit of a hissy fit at them, I must admit.
There's a bit of role reversal there, isn't there? With you spend your whole life looking after them, and now they're trying to look after you.
And then Rachel's son Will did some warm-ups that were really good for kids warming up before they run. So I do his warm-ups. I don't do all of them, I have to admit, but I do some of them. And so I was making progress.
Well, that's amazing. That must be the biggest difference between coach and athlete in the history of athletics, I guess.
I think it must be.
Over half a century. Anyway, so, well, I mean, I just to pick up on your point, I did the 0 to 5K or couch to 5K thing, and thoroughly enjoyed it on Redbourne Common as well. And it was really I think it was over 12 weeks, and there were or 10 weeks, and there were 12 or 13 of us, and we still carried on until lockdown. We carried on every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, and it's something I really look forward to. It also keeps me at the pub on a Saturday night, which is not a bad thing to do, I have to say.
So are you still doing 5K on a Sunday morning?
Well, I don't want to bore with my details, but I cracked a couple of ribs a couple of years ago, so I got unfit. So I couldn't miss the exercise, so I used to go down and meet them, and I'd ride 5K, ride 10K and you can ride about twice the speed that you can run. So the idea was I'd do 2 circuits and they'd do 1 circuit, and we'd meet at the beginning at the end. And that way it was nice and sociable, and I got to warm up and still got my exercise and still kept out of the pub. But since lockdown, I've been practicing a bit like you, not quite as thorough and diligent as you, but I've been practicing, and I'm now up to a 5K, but I have to walk a little bit of it, but I thoroughly enjoy it, and I'm glad to be back.
Great, great.
So have you got any particular comments, if you want to get somebody interested in running, have you got anything that you'd like to say, well, this is what you should do?
I think do it bit at a time, I think, is really the best thing to do, because you and that's what I said about really don't let go of expectations of that you've got to drive yourself to 5K or 10K or whatever it is. I've settled in at 4.4K now, and that's what I plan to do every other day. And I might do a bit more in time, but I don't have any goals about doing any more. And I think letting go of those is really good, because I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to do less than 4.4K, but I'm quite happy to not even be doing 5K. That's fine by me. I've still got a bit of pain when I'm running. Sorry, I've got the weird thing that's happened to me is I've got no pain running. I've got more pain if I walk, and I'm investigating that with one of our other practitioners, who's is Gemma, that does supple strength on Mondays, and she's helping me because she's saying what's happening is my hips are doing different things when I'm walking and when I'm running. But that has been a complete surprise to me, and that's only happened in the last week or so, because I started to walk and I went, oh my God, I'm going backwards here.
Now one of the interesting things that I can't quite remember which program it was on one of these programs, that somebody made the point that when you're exercising and running, don't try and do a little bit more each week. In fact, you'll get better if every now and then you just do a gentle run and spice it up a little bit. And I thought that was a very good piece of advice, and it's certainly something I've taken on. So there are days when it's raining, I can't be bothered to go out, and I just go out for a very short run just so I can actually keep the schedule going. I think that's quite a helpful thing as well, and company. That's the thing for me. Having other people doing it alongside me is always helpful.
And Rachel also said to me, you will have days when you really don't enjoy the running, but you feel great afterwards. So it's worth doing it.
It's so true. And drink lots of water. That's the one piece of advice I'd say.
Drink lots of water. There was a few days in the running schedule where I felt really weird, and I suddenly realized I hadn't been drinking water. So that is a really important point. I think the other thing is that don't question it too much. I actually, for me, I have to get up, get out of bed and go running before breakfast. I can't, if I leave it till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I'm not going to go.
Yes, that's so true. I can find plenty of excuses not to do it, but when I get out there, I think, oh, what's the matter with you? Don't be a baby. You're enjoying it now. It's so true.
And I have to say, there's two things that have also surprised me is I'm eating less and I'm drinking more water, which is a complete surprise to me.
Yeah, I can't share that one. Eating and drinking more, and it's not just water, I'm afraid, but there you go. The running at least mitigates some of it.
So anyway, where we go next? I'm just going to carry on doing this, and I want to just put a plug in for Health Walks. Health Walks will be back at 10 o'clock every Friday morning, when we're allowed to by Hertfordshire Health Walks. At the moment they're banned, but they tell us when we can do it, and they are giving us training to do what they believe is the right way of doing a health walk. It'll be different to what we did before, because we'll only probably be allowed half a dozen people on a health walk, which is a great shame. And we may or may not be able to get a cup of socially distanced coffee. I haven't worked that out yet, from the cricket pitch on the way back, but we will be back.
Good.
So do you want to add anything about your experiences with running? Say a bit about Run Redbourn, Chris, because I don't think people necessarily know about that. And that's how you run with other people. I'm actually really keen on running on my own, because then I concentrate and do the mindfulness thing.
Well, I mean, we're very lucky here. There's over 500 members of the local running club that was set up by Carla and Rachel, and it's called Run Redbourn. Obviously, it's the clue's in the name, and it was that got me into the Couch to 5K. And there are runs all the time, and what I find is the village has come to life, because I know a whole bunch of people, and I can always when I go to the shops now, there's always someone to say hello to, because 500 people running out of 6,000, you're pretty likely to bump into somebody just about every day. And there's a beginner's run, which I do, and then there's soft runs, and then for the hardcore, there's some real intrepid runs, which I'll never go on, but I don't care. It's really good. And the posts on Facebook, some of them make me laugh so much. It's almost entertainment in its own self. So it's if you think you want to get running, I've done it myself, and I'm really glad I did it. So look it up on the website and see what you think, and just go for it and just give it a try. It could be, well, it certainly kept me from getting older and fatter. I'm now feeling much younger and much fitter as a result of regular exercise, and also lots of company.
Absolutely great. It's how long has it been going, Run Redbourn?
I've only known about it for 3 years, but I think it was a couple of years before that.
Yeah, it's amazing to have built up to 500
Yeah.
people. By the way, it's completely run on Facebook, and there is no payment. It's completely free. And so I really would recommend it. And you can start off like, I mean, I have thought about joining the 5K run on occasions, but I'm going, no, not just at the moment. I'm not worried about it. My 4.4K, where I can concentrate on my own, is fine. And I don't think I can hold a conversation with anybody anyway.
Well, going to St Albans for the park run on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, it was amazing. There were like at 8:30, the park was empty. At 5 to 9, there were 500 people there. And at 10 o'clock, they'd all gone again. It was amazing. It was a real, it was just like out of nowhere, all these cars and people appear and all run. Half them know each other, kids, all ages and all speeds. I mean, frankly, you could walk the 5K and you still wouldn't be the last one. And that's the nice thing about it. It's very, very inclusive.
I must tell you a funny story that when I, many years ago, it's decades ago, I decided to enter a 10K race with very little, much less preparation than I've been putting into this, I have to say. But it was sponsorship for the Lifeboat Association. And I was at work at the time, and so in my corporate life, and I sent it round to people, and I got loads and loads of sponsorship because they all thought, Ollie's not going to do this. And I remember I got a lot of money from a guy, and I said, why have you given me so much money? And he said, well, I grew up in, I forget whether it's Cornwall or Devon, and there was a lifeboat station at the end of my road, and I'm a sailor now. And right. So I always feel that I should support the lifeboats. And I came last in this race. It was round Woburn Abbey.
Yep.
Somewhere like that. Anyway, and but the interesting thing was I raised the most amount of money, so I got the first prize.
I think there's an Aesop's fable in there somewhere.
I think there is. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this.
Lovely talking to you.
And we will be posting it out on Thursday morning. And we've given you enough contacts that do start this for yourself if you're interested. Thank you, Chris.
Cheers. Bye.